In this first example, we're gonna take a look at a clean guitar sound using a tele-style guitar running through a valve amp, an Epiphone Valve Junior molded into a Boogie DC5 cabinet using 12 inches speaker. We're gonna be using a finger picking style. We're gonna use two microphones, a TLM 193 in front of the speaker at about 12 centimeters and Roger 101 further away. Of course, we're gonna use the 3-to-1 rule in order to have minimal phase issues. We can avoid phase issues in a two mic setup. We are actually going to use this distance to create a more wide stereo image. That's why we're going to use the Roger as a distant mic, utilizing its figure 8 pattern. The first thing to do is to choose the right preamps, mic amps for this example. We're going to use the API 512 on the TLM 193 in front of the cabinet, in front of the mic of the guitar amp. The API is a very bright and open sounding preamp which will complement the direct sound of the Neumann and will give us a focused and solid close mic'd amp body. On the other hand, we're gonna use the A-Designs MP1 tube mic amp for the Roger 101, which will give us a more smooth, even smoother sound from the Roger, and this way we can have a nice balance between the focused and direct sound of the TLM in front of the speaker with a more dark but warmer sound from the Roger. What we're going to do is to route these preamps to the console's parallel matrix in order to be able to record both the direct output of the mic amps and to have the opportunity to process both signals separately. This way you'll be able to hear what we're going to do during processing and still have the direct signals from the mic amps recorded as different files on your computers. So, let's start. First of all, let's take a look at the signal chain starting from the microphone all the way to the AD input on our interface. We'll start by listening to the direct outputs of the preamps and how they sound. Now let's listen to the two tracks in solo.
As you listen, the LDC has a more crispy sound, while the Ribbon has a more sustained and low-mid focused sound with a percentage of ambience from the figure 8 pattern. Now let's move on to our process signals, starting with the rocker and the compression through a Distressor. The Distressor is in Brit mode, resembling the 1176 classic all-button-in sound, with a percentage of harmonic distortion added. You see how more crispy and forward becomes the sound of the rocker with the Distressor in. It's more even without losing its transients and dynamic motion, but at the same time it's even more sustained and saturated. Now let's move on to the TLM 193. The TLM is also routed to a compressor, this time the DBX 165A for transparent leveling and peak reduction. With the auto attack and release features on, we have a much more focused and solid body without obvious gain reduction. Now let's move on to our next step in the signal chain, which is the equalization through the onboard EQ on the Jade console. On the TLM 193, we try to make a more scooped, bright sound. A few scratchy pots still. With boosted edges of the frequency spectrum. On the rocker, on the other hand, we try to enhance the already powerful low mid and to bring forward the sustained low end of the lower strings. We also boost the upper mid range in order to bring back some sparkle that was attenuated from the previous compression stage. You can see all the settings of the EQ for both tracks on the right of the screen. Now let's move on to our final stage of processing, the monthly tube compressor on both tracks. As you can see, we use the compressor in a dual mono mode and not stereo linked, with different attack times for the two tunnels, a more fast attack for the TLM and a slower one for the Roger. We use the fastest recovery settings for both tunnels, and as a result we get a very even sound regarding its level, with the creamy characteristic sonic signature of the monthly, plus a very nice stereo imaging as a result from the dual mono operation. Well, now with all our processing done, we're going to listen to both the processed and unprocessed signals in order to compare them. We made a loop with the whole cycle being repeated, so we have the chance to listen to the direct output of the preamps first, and then the result of our processing chain. You can easily hear the huge differences in the processed signal, with a much more solid body but retaining the clarity. On the other hand, the unprocessed direct output from the preamps sounds now very thin and small compared to our processed signal.